We begin our discussion on ecology and sustainability with a very important area of conservation located in Hamilton, Ontario, called Cootes Paradise. The lush green of Cootes Paradise bumps up against the hard edge of the city of Hamilton. Cootes Paradise is a wetland located beside the city of Hamilton. A wetland is an area in which the soil is saturated with water for at least part of the year. Wetlands provide a home for many different species of fish, plants, insects, and birds. Many people also use wetlands for camping, fishing, and wildlife viewing. Pollution and urban development have affected Cootes Paradise, but another factor has taken a toll on wetlands: the carp. These fish feed in the shallow waters by pulling up roots of water plants, damaging the plants and muddying the waters as they go. This makes it difficult for water plants and other fish species to survive. By 1985, almost 85% of the wetland's vegetation had disappeared. This was never supposed to happen. In the 1800s, the federal government stocked the Great Lakes with carp, a fish that is native to Asia. But adult carp have few predators in the Great Lakes, and their populations exploded. As many as 50,000 adult carp used to feed and spawn each year in Cootes Paradise. In 1993, the municipal government of Hamilton and the local community joined together to take on the challenge of restoring Cootes Paradise. One of the many things they did was to install a fishway at the entrance of Cootes Paradise. It allows small fish to enter the wetland, but prevents large fish from entering. The large fish are then captured and inspected. Wetland fish species are returned to Cootes Paradise, but adult carp are not. The Fishway project has been a tremendous success, and wetland, plant, and fish species are recovering. Let's look at some important definitions. Stewardship. This is a way of acting that involves taking personal responsibility for the management and care of something. An ecosystem is all of the interacting parts of a biological community and its environment. And a sustainable ecosystem is an ecosystem that can withstand pressure and give support to a variety of organisms. All organisms need sustainable ecosystems to survive. Many organisms depend on more than one ecosystem to survive. Let's take a look at a special species that you may have seen in your backyard here in southern Ontario, the ruby-throated hummingbirds. Sustainable ecosystems endure, but they also support a variety of organisms. All organisms require sustainable ecosystems for survival, and many depend on more than one ecosystem to survive. The ruby-throated hummingbird is one example that depends on more than one ecosystem to survive. In the summertime, ruby-throated hummingbirds can be found in the gardens along the edges of eastern Canada. In the fall, they fly thousands of kilometers to spend their winter in the tropical forests of Central America. In the spring, they return their long flight back to Canada. Along the way, they stop to drink water, eat nectar and insects, and rest. Because these birds and many others migrate long distances every year, they are dependent on more than one ecosystem to survive. A second example of an organism that shows the connectivity between different ecosystems is the monarch butterfly. Millions of monarch butterflies stop at Point Pelee on Lake Erie during their annual 3,000-kilometer migratory flight to Mexico. In order for both the ruby-throated hummingbird and the monarch butterfly to survive, it is important that the communities in which they live, both in Canada and across North America, are healthy and sustainable. In order to study sustainability, we have to break down the parts of an ecosystem. An ecosystem can be as big as a forest or as small as a rotting log. Every ecosystem has biotic and abiotic parts. The biotic parts refer to the living parts of an ecosystem. They also refer to the once living parts. For example, a log, part of a tree that has fallen down and is rotting in the forest. Examples of biotic factors include plants, animals, and microorganisms. Abiotic parts of an ecosystem refer to the non-living parts of an ecosystem. These include very important parts such as water, oxygen, light, nutrients, and soil. In this diagram, the abiotic components in this pond ecosystem include water, air, and the biotic parts include reeds, bushes, and the duck. The biotic factors, the living factors of ecosystems, interact with one another. The interactions include symbiosis, predation, and competition. Let's look at each of these. Symbiosis is the interaction between members of two different species that live together in close association. One example is the mushrooms that are growing near the foot of a tree. These mushrooms help the tree to absorb water, while the tree provides the mushrooms with food in the form of sugar produced by trees. The second type of interaction between biotic parts of an ecosystem is predation. Predation occurs when one organism consumes another organism for food. The organism that is consumed is called the prey, and the organism that feeds on the prey is called the predator. One example is the river otter. The river otter is a predator. Its prey includes fish, crabs, frogs, and turtles. The third biotic interaction between living organisms is called competition. Competition occurs when two or more organisms compete for the same resource. One example is that of the dandelion. The dandelion is a hardy flower that competes with grass. Dandelions will grow, block out the sunlight, and compete with grass for resources. We've left space for you to record two additional types of interaction for each of the ones labeled above. So we want you to find two more examples of symbiosis, predation, and competition. Now let's take a look at the abiotic characteristics of an ecosystem. These parts of an ecosystem, the abiotic parts, are very important. They are factors that living things need to survive and for the ecosystem to be sustainable. First, we'll look at water. Water is important because all organisms need water to survive. Plants take up water through their roots. Some animals need water to help regulate their body temperature. Animals also use water to get rid of wastes. Many organisms live in freshwater and saltwater ecosystems. Both natural processes and human activity can affect the amount of water and the quality of water in an ecosystem. Water sources can dry out during long, hot periods with no rain, and chemicals from industries and agriculture can contaminate the water. Oxygen. Many organisms, including plants and animals, need oxygen for their life processes. Aquatic organisms get oxygen from their water. Sometimes, as a result of human activities, oxygen levels in water can get so low that fish and other organisms cannot survive. Light. Plants and other organisms such as algae need light for photosynthesis, a life process in which organisms produce their own food. The amount of light in an organism, in an ecosystem, can vary. Plants near the floor of a forest may be shaded by taller trees. Light in an aquatic ecosystem can be affected by the amount of sediment in the water and in the runoff. Nutrients. All organisms need nutrients to grow. For example, plants and animals need nitrogen and phosphorus. Nutrient levels in an ecosystem can become unbalanced as a result of human activities. The soil in ecosystem provides nutrients for plants and habitats for many microorganisms. The top layers of soil, which contain most of the nutrients, can be washed away if there is heavy rain or if too many trees have been cut down. Please take a look at the practice examples and any LMS quizzes on this section.